Commander Jai-Ho Park sat quietly in his captain's chair aboard the Earth defense ship Morning Star. The ship was moving slowly through the asteroids of the Orion Belt. It was supposed to be a normal patrol, just like any other day in the past 5 years. Jai-Ho looked at the large screen in front of him. Stars filled the dark space, shining like tiny diamonds. He had seen this view hundreds of times, but today felt different. There was a strange feeling in his stomach, like something big was about to happen. "Commander, we're picking up an unusual signal," said Officer Tawan, who worked at the ship's scanning station. His fingers moved quickly across the blue glowing screen. "It's coming from inside that large asteroid ahead of us." Jai-Ho stood up and walked closer to the main screen. The asteroid was huge, about 3 kilometers wide. But what caught his attention was a faint blue light coming from a crack in its surface. "Take us closer," Jai-Ho ordered. "But be careful. We don't know what's out there." The Morning Star moved slowly toward the asteroid. As they got closer, the blue light grew stronger. Jai-Ho could now see that the light was coming from something metal buried inside the rock. "Sir, the energy readings are unlike anything we've seen before," Tawan reported. His voice was filled with excitement and worry at the same time. "Whatever is in there, it's very old. The dating system says it's at least 100,000 years old." Jai-Ho made a quick decision. "Get our best team ready. We're going to check it out." An hour later, Jai-Ho was floating in space with 3 other crew members. Their white space suits reflected the blue light as they moved closer to the crack in the asteroid. Using their laser cutters, they made the opening bigger. What they found inside made them all stop and stare. It was a metal room, perfectly preserved inside the asteroid. The walls were covered in strange writing that seemed to glow with a soft blue light. In the center of the room stood a tall metal pillar with a smooth black surface. "Be careful," Jai-Ho warned as they entered the room. The team's boots made soft clicking sounds as they landed on the metal floor. Their helmet lights showed that the room was empty except for the pillar. When Jai-Ho got closer to the pillar, something unexpected happened. The black surface suddenly lit up with thousands of tiny lights. They formed patterns that moved and changed, like a living thing. "Sir," called out Medical Officer Myre. She was pointing her scanner at the pillar. "The device is responding to your presence. It's scanning your DNA." Before Jai-Ho could move away, a beam of light shot out from the pillar and hit his chest. But instead of hurting him, it felt warm and familiar. In his mind, he suddenly saw images, thousands of them, flowing like a river. He saw Earth, but not as it was now. He saw strange machines and people working in huge laboratories. He saw something that made his heart stop, the truth about where humans came from. The light disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Jai-Ho stood there, trying to understand what he had just learned. His hands were shaking inside his spacesuit gloves. "Commander, are you okay?" Myre asked, moving closer to check on him. Jai-Ho turned to look at his team. His voice was quiet but clear when he spoke through the radio. "Contact Earth Command immediately. What we just found changes everything we know about humanity. And we need to act fast, because we're not the only ones looking for this." As if to confirm his words, the ship's alarm suddenly started blaring. Officer Tawan's voice came through their radios. "Commander, we're picking up multiple ships entering the system. They're not Earth ships, and they're heading straight for us." Jai-Ho looked at the pillar one more time. He now knew humanity's greatest secret, and he had a feeling the galaxy would never be the same after today. Ambassador Hae-Yun Lee walked through the bright white halls of the Galactic Council building on Europa Station. Her steps were quick but careful. The message she had received from Earth Command about Commander Park's discovery had kept her awake all night. The council chamber doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, representatives from 20 different alien species sat in a half circle. Their eyes, some glowing, others multicolored, all turned to watch her. At the center sat High Counselor Vex of the Meridian species, his silver skin reflecting the room's lights. Ambassador Lee, Vex spoke, his voice calm but cold. We have received disturbing reports about a discovery in the Orient Belt. The Council demands an explanation. He-Yun stood straight and looked directly at the High Counselor. The Earth Defense Fleet was conducting a routine patrol when they found an ancient artifact. We are still studying it. Do not play games with us, Ambassador, another council member said. This one had blue scales and sharp teeth. Our ships detected the energy surge. We know what was discovered. He-Yun felt her heart beat faster, but her face remained calm. Commander Park had warned her about this. The artifact had shown him that some alien species already knew about humanity's secret origins. They had been watching Earth for centuries, waiting and worrying. The artifact is in Earth territory, He-Yun said firmly. Under galactic law, we have the right to study it first. High Counselor Vex leaned forward. This is not about law, Ambassador. This is about safety. Your people were never meant to find that artifact. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. The room grew quiet. He-Yun could feel the tension in the air. Are you threatening Earth, High Counselor? No, Ambassador. We are trying to protect the galaxy, including Earth. Vex stood up. He was tall, almost 3 meters in height. The Council demands access to all of Earth's historical archives. We need to ensure the artifact's data hasn't triggered any changes in your people. He-Yun thought about the last report from Earth. Dr. Kim's research team had already detected unusual activity in human DNA samples across the planet. The artifact had started something that couldn't be stopped. I will bring your request to Earth Command, He-Yun said carefully. But I remind the Council that Earth is a sovereign member of the galactic community. We have rights. Rights? A new voice spoke. It was Counselor May of the Centaurians. Your people don't even know what you are, what you were made to be. He-Yun turned to face the Centaurian. And what exactly were we made to be, Counselor? Before May could answer, High Counselor Vex raised his hand for silence. That is enough. Ambassador Lee, you have 12 Earth hours to provide us access to your archives. If you refuse, he paused, his silver eyes glowing slightly. The Council will be forced to take action to protect galactic security. He-Yun bowed slightly, following diplomatic protocol. But as she turned to leave, she spoke one last time. The Council should remember, High Counselor, that trying to protect something can sometimes lead to exactly what you fear. As she walked back through the White Halls, He-Yun activated her secure communicator. This is Ambassador Lee to Earth Command. The Council knows about the artifact. They're scared, and scared people make dangerous decisions. We need to prepare for what comes next. She looked out a window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Commander Park was racing back to Earth with humanity's greatest secret. But He-Yun wondered if they would have enough time to understand it before the Council's fear led to actions that couldn't be undone. Dr. Du-Yun, Kim stared at the computer screen in his underground laboratory. The facility was hidden 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, protected by layers of rock and advanced technology. Most people didn't know this place existed. Even many in the government thought it was just a deep-sea research station. But today, everything was different. The data from Commander Park's artifact was changing everything they knew about human DNA. Dr. Kim called Dr. Su-Min Kang from her research station. You need to see this immediately. Du-Yun walked over to her station. The screen showed 2 DNA patterns side by side. One was from their regular human DNA database. The other was new, taken from a military pilot after the artifact was found. The patterns are changing, Su-Min explained, pointing to small differences in the display. It's like some parts of the DNA that were always dormant are waking up. Du-Yun leaned closer to the screen. For 20 years, his team had studied unusual patterns in human DNA. They had always known something was different about humans compared to other Earth species. Now they knew why. Show me the comparison with the artifact's data, Du Yun requested. Su Min pressed some buttons, and a third pattern appeared on the screen. Du Yun's eyes widened. The artifact's pattern matched perfectly with the strange parts of human DNA they had never understood before. We were engineered, Du Yun said quietly. Our DNA wasn't just random evolution. Someone designed us, gave us abilities we haven't even discovered yet. The laboratory's main door opened, and Security Chief Tahi walked in quickly. Dr. Kim, we have a situation. Our sensors detected unusual movement in the ocean above us. Multiple submarines, not ours. Du Yun straightened up. How did they find us? They're using some kind of advanced scanning technology, Tahi explained. They're not Earth vessels. The design matches Meridian technology. How long do we have? Su Min asked, already starting to save their research data. Maybe an hour, Tahi answered. We've activated the facility's cloaking systems, but we don't know how long they'll hold against their scanners. Du Yun moved quickly to his main computer. The screen showed hundreds of files. 20 years of research about human DNA. He started the emergency transfer protocol, sending everything to secure servers around the world. Dr. Kim, Su Min called out again. The latest blood samples. They're showing even more changes. Whatever the artifact started, it's spreading. More and more people are showing DNA activation. Du Yun looked at the new data. The changes were happening faster than he expected. He thought about what this meant. Humanity wasn't just discovering its past, it was starting to change into something new. Something it was always meant to be. Start the evacuation, he ordered Tahi. But first, help me activate the deep storage units. There's something I need to show you both. He led them to a hidden door at the back of the lab. Behind it was a small room filled with old storage containers. Each one had the same symbol, a pattern that matched exactly with the writing found on Commander Park's artifact. All these years, Du Yun said, opening one of the containers, we weren't just studying human DNA. We were protecting humanity's inheritance. The ones who made us. They left us more than just changed DNA. They left us tools, knowledge, things we would need when we finally discovered the truth. Above them, the facility's alarms began to sound. The Meridian ships were getting closer, but Du Yun smiled slightly. They were too late. The changes had already begun, and soon the galaxy would remember why humanity had been created in the first place. Lieutenant Yu Jin Choi sat in the cockpit of her fighter spacecraft, the Swift Wind. Her hands moved smoothly over the controls as she led her squadron on patrol near Mars. The red planet glowed against the black space behind them. All units, stay alert, Yu Jin said into her radio. Command says we might have visitors today. She thought about the strange messages they had received. The Meridian ships were moving through the solar system, heading toward Earth. No one knew if they were coming to talk or to fight. Yu Jin checked her neural interface display. All fighters were required to use these new systems that connected directly to the pilot's mind. Usually, they just showed basic information, speed, weapons, and ship status. But today, something felt different. Lieutenant, her wingman called over the radio. 3 ships just appeared on long-range scanners. They're big. Meridian battleships. Yu Jin saw them too. The ships were huge, each one as big as a small city. They moved fast, their silver hulls shining in the sunlight. This is Earth Defense Squadron 7 to approaching vessels. Yu Jin broadcast. You are entering restricted space. Please identify yourselves. The only answer was silence. The Meridian ships kept coming. Yu Jin felt her heart beat faster. All units, defensive formation beta. We need to slow them down until the main fleet arrives. Her squadron moved into position, 12 small fighters against 3 massive warships. The neural interface hummed softly in Yu Jin's mind. Suddenly, the lead Meridian ship fired. A beam of energy shot toward them, spreading out like a net. Evasive action, Yu Jin shouted. She pulled her controls hard, making her ship spin, and dive. That's when it happened. As the energy net came closer, Yujin felt something change in her mind. The neural interface, usually just a simple connection, suddenly felt alive. Information flooded into her thoughts, but it wasn't overwhelming. It felt natural, like remembering something she had always known. Yujin's hands moved before she could think. Her ship danced through space in ways that should have been impossible. She could feel every part of her fighter, as if it were part of her own body. "How did you do that?" her wingman asked in amazement. Yujin didn't answer. She was too busy understanding what was happening. She could see patterns in the Meridian ship's movements, could predict where they would fire next. "All units, follow my lead," she ordered. Her squadron formed up behind her. What happened next would be talked about for years to come. Yujin led her small squadron in a dance through space that no human had ever done before. They moved as one, dodging every attack, finding gaps in the Meridian ship's defenses that shouldn't have existed. "Lieutenant," one of her pilots said, "my neural interface, it's changing. I can feel more than before." "Same here," another added. "It's like the ship is part of me now." Yujin understood. Whatever had changed in her was spreading to the others. Their human DNA was waking up, showing them abilities they never knew they had. The Meridian ships stopped firing. Yujin could almost feel their surprise. No one had expected a small squadron of Earth fighters to stand against 3 battleships. Her radio crackled. A new voice spoke. "Earth Defense Squadron 7. This is Admiral Han of the First Fleet. We're detecting unusual energy readings from your ships. Are you all right?" Yujin looked at her hands on the controls. They were steady, sure. She knew that after today, nothing would be the same. "We're fine, Admiral," she replied. "But I think we just discovered what the Meridians were afraid of. We're not just pilots anymore. We're becoming what we were always meant to be." Dr. Du-Yum Kim and Dr. Su-Min Kang worked quickly in their new laboratory. After escaping the underwater facility, they had moved to a secret base in the mountains. Through the window, they could see snow falling on tall peaks. Another report just came in. Su-Min said, looking at her computer. 3 more pilots showed the same changes as Lieutenant Choi. Their neural interfaces are working at levels we never thought possible. Do-Yun nodded. He was studying blood samples from the changed pilots. Under his microscope, he could see something amazing happening. The DNA in their cells was changing, becoming more complex, more powerful. "Look at this," he called to Su-Min. "The locked sequences in their DNA. They're not just opening. They're completing themselves, like pieces of a puzzle fitting together." Su-Min came to look through the microscope. Her eyes widened. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "But why is it happening now? What started it?" "The artifact," Du-Yun answered. "When Commander Park found it, it sent out a signal. That signal was like a key, unlocking what was hidden in our DNA." He paused, thinking. "But I don't think it was an accident. We were meant to find it now." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud beeping from their main computer. New data was coming in from hospitals around the world. More and more people were showing signs of change. "It's spreading faster than we thought," Su-Min said, reading the reports. "Not just pilots anymore. Doctors, engineers, scientists. Anyone who works closely with advanced technology is showing signs." Du-Yun walked to the big screen on the wall. It showed a map of the world with glowing dots where changes had been reported. The dots were spreading like stars appearing in the night sky. "Each person shows different abilities," he explained. "The pilots can connect with their ships in amazing ways. Doctors are suddenly understanding the human body better than any machine. Engineers are seeing patterns in technology that we never noticed before." "But why?" Su-Min asked. "Why give us these abilities and then lock them away?" Before Du-Yun could answer, the door opened. A soldier walked in quickly. "Doctors, you need to see this," he said, turning on another screen. The screen showed a news report from space. Lieutenant Choi's squadron had just faced 3 Meridian battleships. 12 small Earth fighters had stopped ships that should have destroyed them easily. It's happening just like the data from the artifact said it would, Du Yun said quietly. We're not just changing randomly. Each person is getting exactly the abilities they need for their work, their purpose. Su Min looked at him with worry in her eyes. The Meridians must have known this would happen. That's why they tried to stop us from finding the artifact. Du Yun walked back to his microscope. They knew, but they were too late. The change has started, and there's no way to stop it now. He looked at the blood samples again. We weren't just made to be smart or strong. We were made to protect something, to fight something. And whatever that something is, it must be coming. Outside, the snow kept falling on the mountains. But in laboratories and hospitals around the world, humanity was waking up. The question wasn't what they would become. That was already written in their DNA. The question was whether they would be ready for what came next. Commander Jaho Park stood in front of Earth's Defense Council. The room was quiet as he prepared to share what he had learned from the artifact. Ambassador Hae-Yum Lee sat at the table, having just returned from Europa Station. Dr. Du Yun Kim and his team watched through a secure video link. The artifact showed me our true history, Jaho began. We were created by a race called the Predecessors. They were the first advanced civilization in our galaxy. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed strange ships and beings that looked like living light. The predecessors could see the future, Jaho continued. They saw a great danger coming to our galaxy. Something from outside, something that would destroy everything. They knew they wouldn't survive to fight it themselves, so they made us. But why humans? Hae-Yun asked. Why not make themselves stronger? Because they needed something special, Jaho explained. They needed a species that could adapt, that could grow stronger through challenges. The Meridians and other advanced races were already too set in their ways. They couldn't change anymore. Dr. Kim spoke through the video link. That's why our DNA is different. The predecessors built in abilities that would unlock slowly over time, as we faced greater challenges. Jaho nodded. The artifact was a timer. It was meant to be found now, just before the danger arrives. Finding it started the final phase of our development. The council members looked at each other with worry. One of them asked, "What is this danger? What are we supposed to fight?" The artifact didn't show me clearly, Jaho answered. But it showed me why the predecessors chose Earth. Our planet has more different types of environments than most worlds. We had to adapt to hot places, cold places, high mountains, deep oceans. That's what they needed, creatures who could adapt to anything. The Meridians knew this, Hae-Yun said. That's why they tried to stop us from finding the artifact. Yes, Jaho agreed. They found other artifacts left by the predecessors. They learned about us, about what we were meant to become. And they were afraid. Dr. Kim's voice came through the speakers again. Commander, the changes in our people are spreading faster. More abilities are appearing. Some can interface with machines in ways we never imagined. Others are showing incredible problem-solving abilities. It's like our brains and bodies are remembering things they always knew how to do. Jaho looked at the council members. We don't have much time. The Meridians are coming with their fleet, but they're not our real enemy. They're just afraid of what we are, of what we'll become. And what exactly are we? Another council member asked. We're guardians, Jaho said simply. The predecessors didn't make us to rule the galaxy. They made us to protect it. All these abilities, all these changes, they're tools to help us fight what's coming. The room was quiet again. Through the windows, they could see the lights of the city below. Somewhere up in space, the Meridian fleet was getting closer. But now, they knew the truth. The Meridians weren't the real threat. They were just the first test of humanity's awakening powers. So what do we do now? Hae-Yun asked. Jaho looked at the hologram still floating above the table. We prepare. We help our people understand what they're becoming. And we get ready to do what we were made to do, protect this galaxy, no matter what's coming for it. The Meridian fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 warships moved in perfect formation, their silver hulls gleaming in the starlight. On Earth's main defense screen, they looked like a wall of metal stretching across space. Commander Jaiho Park stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Morning Star. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. Each of them had changed in the past few days. Their minds connected with their ship's systems in ways that would have seemed impossible before. The Meridian fleet has stopped near Mars orbit, Officer Tadawun reported. His fingers moved across his screen without touching it, his mind directly linked to the ship's sensors. They're charging weapons. Jaiho looked at the tactical display. Earth's defense fleet was much smaller, only 50 ships, but they weren't the same ships they had been a week ago. Neither were their crews. All ships, battle formation, Jaiho ordered. Lieutenant Choi, is your squadron ready? Ready, Commander. Yu Jin's voice came through clear. Her fighter squadron had grown to 30 ships now. Each pilot was like her, changed and stronger. The first Meridian message came through. This is High Commander Vex. Surrender now, and we will help control the changes in your people. Resist, and we will be forced to stop those changes permanently. Jaiho thought about everything he had learned from the artifact. The Meridians weren't evil. They were just afraid. They didn't understand that humanity's transformation was necessary. This is Commander Park, he replied. We cannot surrender. We were made for a purpose. The galaxy will need us when the real enemy comes. Then you leave us no choice, Vex said. The Meridian fleet fired all at once. Beams of energy filled space, heading toward Earth's ships. In the past, this kind of attack would have destroyed them immediately. But humanity had changed. Jaiho felt his connection to his ship grow stronger. He could see patterns in space that weren't visible before. He knew exactly where each enemy shot would go. All ships, execute defense pattern Alpha, he ordered. What happened next amazed even the Meridians. Earth's ships moved in ways that should have been impossible. They flowed through space like water, avoiding every shot. Fighter squadrons led by Yu Jin danced between the energy beams. On Earth, Dr. Du Yum Kim and his team watched the battle through their monitors. The changes are accelerating, he said to Sumin. The stress of battle is triggering more abilities. He was right. With each passing minute, Earth's defenders grew stronger. Ships moved faster. Pilots saw more clearly. Weapons officers found weak points that no one had seen before. The Meridian fleet's perfect formation began to break. Their shots missed more often. Their moves became less certain. Commander, Ta-1 called out. I'm detecting strange energy readings from deep space. Something big is coming through. Jaiho looked at his display. Behind the Meridian fleet, space itself seemed to tear open. Through the tear, they could see something dark, something that didn't belong in their galaxy. The Meridian ships turned to look. For a moment, both fleets forgot about fighting each other. It's starting, Jaiho said quietly. This is what we were made for. This is why we needed to change. He opened a channel to all ships, both Earth and Meridian. To all ships, what we feared has arrived. We can fight each other, or we can fight together against what's coming. The choice is yours. Ambassador Hae-Yum Lee stood before the Galactic Council 1 month after the Great Battle. The chamber looked different now. Scorch marks showed on some walls, and several seats were empty. But there was something else different too. The way the council members looked at her. The report from the Joint Fleet Command is clear, Hae-Yun said. Without humanity's awakened abilities, we could not have stopped the Void creature's first attack. And without the Meridian Fleet's help, Earth would have fallen. High Counselor Vex nodded slowly. His silver skin had lost some of its shine during the battle, but his eyes were clearer now. We were wrong about humanity, he admitted. We saw your power and assumed it meant destruction. We didn't understand you were made to protect. Through the chamber's windows, they could see ships from many worlds working together to repair Europa Station. Human engineers worked alongside aliens, their newly awakened abilities helping them understand and improve technologies from across the galaxy. Dr. Kim's latest research confirms it. Heyun continued. The changes in our people aren't stopping, but they're not random. Each person is developing abilities that help them serve and protect others. Our pilots become better at defending ships. Our doctors get better at healing all species. Our engineers understand how to make defenses stronger. On the main screen, they could see Commander Park's fleet patrolling the edge of known space. The Morning Star led the way, its sensors now able to detect the smallest sign of the void creatures. Lieutenant Yu Jin's fighters flew nearby, ready to respond to any threat. The predecessors chose well, another council member said. They made you adaptable, but they also made you compassionate. You fight fiercely to protect, not to conquer. Heyun smiled slightly. That's why we're here today. Earth requests permission to establish training centers throughout the galaxy, places where humans can work with other species, sharing our abilities and learning from your wisdom. The council chamber grew quiet. What she was asking had never been done before, but these were new times. High Counselor Vex stood. The Meridian fleet fought beside humans in the great battle. We saw your true nature. You could have destroyed us when we came as enemies, but instead, you saved us when the real enemy appeared. He looked at the other council members. I support this request. One by one, the other council members stood. The vote was unanimous. Back on Earth, Dr. Du Yun Kim and Dr. Sumin Kang watched the council meeting through their lab screens. Around them, their team studied data from the battle, learning more about humanity's awakening powers. The predecessors didn't just give us abilities, Sumin said, looking at their latest DNA scans. They gave us a purpose. Du Yun nodded. And now we can fulfill it. Not alone, but together with all the species of the galaxy. In deep space, Commander Park's ship detected another anomaly. Another tear in space where void creatures might come through. But this time, they were ready. Ships from Earth, Meridian, and 10 other worlds moved into position together. The galaxy had changed. The old fears were gone, replaced by a new understanding. Humanity had awakened not to rule, but to protect. And as they faced the darkness coming from beyond the stars, they did it as one united galaxy, with humanity standing guard as it was always meant to do.